September 11th, 2025. Charlie Kirk stood before hundreds at Utah Valley University, midway through his American comeback tour. Then, a single gunshot shattered the crowd. One round, fired from nearly 200 yards away, struck down one of America's most visible conservative activists in broad daylight. Officials called it a political assassination. The nation watched in disbelief as flags dropped to half-mast and a massive manhunt began. Yet who pulled the trigger and why remains a mystery. In this documentary, we uncover the events behind the assassination of Charlie Kirk and the unanswered questions that could change everything. Shortly after noon on September 10th, 2025, the quiet of Utah Valley University's campus plaza shattered. Hundreds gathered around the outdoor stage, pressed shoulder to shoulder, waiting for Charlie Kirk to answer another challenge. Then came the crack of a rifle. One shot, echoing across the open air. For a split second, no one moved. A stunned hush, broken only by the thud of a microphone hitting the floor. In that instant, Kirk collapsed, struck by a bullet fired from nearly 200 yards away. Panic ripped through the crowd. Students screamed and dove for cover, scattering across the plaza. Some hit the ground. Others sprinted for the nearest doors. A parent shielded their child as confusion turned to terror. Event staff pulled Kirk behind a barricade, shouting for medics. Eyewitnesses later described a single figure glimpsed on a distant rooftop. There, then gone. Sirens wailed as campus police rushed in, radios crackling with reports of an active shooter. The shooter's nest overlooked the entire plaza, a vantage point missed by security. In less than a minute, the scene had changed from debate to chaos, from free speech to mortal danger. Amid the stampede, a student knelt beside Kirk, hands shaking, trying to stop the bleeding. The shot had been precise, the intent unmistakable. On the steps of the Utah State Capitol, Governor Spencer Cox addressed the nation. His voice, steady but raw, called the killing of Charlie Kirk a political assassination. This was not just an attack on one man, he declared. It was an attack on free speech, on our democracy, and on the very idea that Americans can disagree without violence. Within the hour, the White House issued its own statement. Flags across federal buildings were ordered to half-mast at 1:15 p.m., a gesture repeated in cities from Salt Lake to Miami. The symbolism was unmistakable, a country pausing to mourn, united in shock. Online, the reaction was instant and fierce. Hashtags bearing Kirk's name trended worldwide. Supporters posted tributes, while critics condemned the act as a stain on American discourse. Conservative leaders compared the moment to the darkest days of the 1960s, warning that the boundaries of political conflict had been crossed. Vigils formed outside the university gates as dusk fell, candles flickering in the mountain air. In Orem, students wept openly, some clutching Turning Point USA banners, others simply standing in silence. Across newsrooms and living rooms, the question hung heavy. How had it come to this? The nation, reeling, found itself searching for meaning in the face of a single, shattering loss. Federal agents fanned out across Orem within the hour. The FBI and ATF took command, forming a joint task force to track a killer who had vanished into broad daylight. On the rooftop where the shot was fired, investigators found a single shell casing and faint footprints in the gravel. No weapon, no fingerprints, no DNA. Every rooftop access point was dusted for prints, and building logs were pulled, searching for anyone who might have entered unnoticed. Digital forensics teams scoured campus security footage frame by frame, isolating a shadowy figure in dark clothing moving across the roof minutes before the attack. But the video cut out at a critical moment, one of several blind spots in the university's camera network. Tips poured in from the public, each one logged and cross-checked. Several people seen near the scene were detained, questioned, and released. Their alibis confirmed. The shooter remained at large, a ghost in a city now gripped by fear. Charlie Kirk's rise was no accident. As co-founder of Turning Point USA, he built a movement that brought conservative politics to college campuses nationwide. His American Comeback Tour drew thousands, igniting fierce debate and, at times, protest. At Utah Valley University, the promise of open discourse collided with a reality no one wanted to face. The plaza where he fell had been chosen for its visibility, yet that same openness left him exposed. Security consultants now point to missed warnings. Rooftop access went unguarded, and camera blind spots were left unchecked. Failures that would haunt event organizers and university officials. In the aftermath, campus leaders pledged to review every protocol. But as the investigation stalled, demands grew louder for answers, for accountability, for change. Kirk's death forced a reckoning far beyond Orem. It raised urgent questions about how a nation protects its most polarizing voices, and whether any place of learning can truly guarantee safety when politics turns deadly. The shooter's identity still unknown, the legacy of that day lingers, unresolved. On September 11, 2025, Charlie Kirk was shot and killed at Utah Valley University, ending a public event attended by hundreds. Investigators confirmed the shooter fired a single round from a rooftop, roughly 200 yards away. The attack was labeled a political assassination by Utah Governor Spencer Cox, and national flags were ordered to half-mast within hours. Despite an intensive manhunt, all detained suspects were released without charges, and the shooter remains unidentified. While law enforcement continues to examine physical evidence and digital records, no official report has detailed the shooter's identity or motive. Security protocols at UVU have since been reviewed, but many findings remain undisclosed. Today, the facts point to a calculated and unresolved act of violence. The case leaves open questions about political safety, public discourse, and the reach of extremist actions in the United States.